Well, thanks for the tag, boys and girls. Anyway, I don't know how to start this video off, but I suppose I should let you all know that I didn't go to high school here in the United States, and so if we're talking about high school, we're talking about the European school system, and that you know, my high school experience is way back in the past, and you know, I graduated from high school in 1972, if that gives you any idea. Some of you who are watching this probably weren't even born then. So as far as the worst teachers or the most hated teachers, that question, you know, my experience wasn't really, I can't really remember one single teacher which I absolutely hated. I can remember one in high school who was totally inspiring and got everybody captivated, and that was actually my art teacher. As far as the rest of my teachers in high school were concerned, most of them were quite uninspiring, I might say, and they just couldn't create any kind of enthusiasm, at least in me, to investigate any kind of subject further. I might add that I had a knack for languages, and you know, I had, even in elementary school, I had English and French as my subjects, and we had Latin in high school, and our Latin teacher was so uninspiring about learning the language, when quite easily he could have introduced Latin mythology, you know, Greek mythology into the language lessons, which he didn't do, which to this day I can't understand, because that would have actually made this dead language actually fun to learn. I wasn't a particularly good student in high school. I had trouble graduating, as a matter of fact, because I skipped too many English classes, for one. And you'll laugh about this, because I, at that point, probably because of sort of self-study, because of what I heard on the radio in Germany at that time, you know, there were English language programs, and I sort of knew more about the language than my teacher, and so I stopped going to the classes, and so consequently I got thrown out of 2 English classes in high school. It's kind of an irony now, but much later on, you know, when I came to America, I went to college, and that experience was totally different from high school, and I had very interesting professors. Now, some of them I didn't agree with, but probably one of the most surprisingly interesting classes for me was conducted by a professor named John Hood. And this was a class entitled Physics for Non-Physics Majors. Now, mind you, I was an art major at the time, and the class, any kind of science class, was a requirement, you know, to graduate at the undergraduate level. And so I took this class simply because I was required to take such a class, and it turned out to be so interesting that I will never forget it as long as I live. This man actually got me interested in not only physics, but also the politics behind physics. In particular, I chose an assignment which dealt with nuclear weapons and nuclear weapons proliferation. And this in turn led to some investigation on my part, and this professor got me in touch with one of the leading scientists who was deeply involved in the Manhattan Project, in other words, the development of the atomic bomb. This man's name was Herbert York, Herbert F. York. He was a nuclear physicist and who completely turned against nuclear weapons after Hiroshima and Nagasaki were destroyed. I might also add that this, I talked with this man personally in his home, and he had a very interesting career because he ended up interim Secretary of Defense right after McNamara. And as a result of his own involvement with nuclear weapons, he founded the institute over at San Diego, the UCSD, called Global Conflict and a Global Cooperation, which is essentially about getting rid of nuclear weapons. So this was a very interesting experience for me because it got me involved in thinking about foreign affairs, all sorts of things, which then later on, became a major interest for me. So that was, a very unusual experience for an art student, you might say. As far as hated policies are concerned, I don't have any children, and so I'm not familiar personally with the United States school system. What I am against, though, and I have to agree with Jacques-Luc Faure on this, is the No Child Left Behind policy. I totally disagree with that. And I find it very troublesome that teachers are required to basically teach classes according to, just to bring up test scores. Because really what that does is it's nothing more than advanced rogue learning, so to speak, and it stifles creativity. And another thing I would like to add, it's a well-rounded education should very much include the humanities, and all of this is being cut from the public school system, or all these things are being cut, and that is so important to get a wider perspective on everything, including science and languages and technology. So I guess that's my little contribution. I don't really have much else to say. I found everybody's videos very interesting. Thanks a lot.